We are in Te Anau, New Zealand today, on the South Island of New Zealand, getting ready to set off on the Kepler Track up and over several of these ridges behind me. It's a 3 to 4 day track, and there's several huts that you can stay in. And this time of year, off peak season, those huts cost $15 per night per person. But during peak season or trekking season, those same huts go for $150 per person. And the great walks, this is one of the great walks here in New Zealand, book out months in advance, and they're pretty expensive during the peak summer tourism season. So right now is actually the perfect time to do this. The great walks in New Zealand are supposed to be 10 of the best hikes all around New Zealand, exploring ridge lines, and in fact this Kepler Track takes you through many different environments, through dense forest, boggy marshes, over top of ridges of some mountains with lakes and waterfalls, and it's going to be a really enjoyable trek. And the good thing about the Great Walks is the trails are wide, well maintained, and although during winter season they remove the bridges on some of the tracks, I've heard the Kepler Track keeps all the bridges in place, so we shouldn't have to ford any rivers. So we are in the Fiordland National Park of New Zealand here, and it rains over 200 days out of the year in the Fiordlands. Lucky, today we have beautiful weather, though we will be getting a light dusting of some snow when we get to higher elevation tonight and through midday tomorrow, so that will make that ridge line hike absolutely beautiful with that glistening snow. Well, we're starting to get above the tree line now, and can overlook Lake Te Anau out there, and then we have these sweet cliffs behind me. Going to be going up above that and eventually across a bunch of ridges. Definitely switched up now from the forest to moving into the subalpine, and wow, enjoying this part because it's much more flat, but at some point there's probably a giant switchback. It takes us above these cliffs here, but this is absolutely tremendous. Sun's coming out now, and looks like it's gonna clear up. Snow is dying down. My mic just died, so the audio is not gonna be that great. Heading off into these snow-covered ridge lines here. 4 to 6 hours to Iris Burn, and it's gonna be an epic day. Look at this beauty.
I think there were about 15 people, and it looks like 4, including us, have decided to press on. And this is so beautiful.
This track does cross through avalanche terrain. However, this is really the first good snowfall that they've had this season. We checked in with the DOC Information Center first yesterday, and they said we didn't need to bring avalanche stuff. But depending on the time of year you come, you always want to check those conditions and make sure if there's an avalanche risk to bring a beacon, a shovel, and a probe, and know how to use them. We've got 2 hours to the Iris Burn Hut, which is where we're headed to. Although it's getting dark soon, you can see the sun starting to go down. So it should take us, the snow is slowing us down about 25%, so it should take us 2.5 hours, so we should get there at 7. Got our headlamps out ready to go. But from this point on, we're at the Hanging Valley Shelter. This is an emergency shelter. It's all downhill, so really the only danger is being real icy. So it's been an epic day, though. This has been one of the highlights of the trip for me so far. Anything else to say?
Thank you for trying to open. Do you see the icicles over there on the toilet?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for opening the toilet for me.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, honey.
Oh, you're welcome, honey.
Always coming through for me.
Well, good morning from the Iris Burn Hut here on the Kepler Track. Took us nearly 8 hours yesterday from the Luxmore Hut. That snow really slowed us down. They say about 6 to 7 hours is normal time, but that snow really slowed us down. Came down through some beautiful forest. When we got below the tree line last night, it was covered in snow. Absolutely beautiful. A little too dark to show you guys, but here at the Iris Burn, we're in this nice little valley with these peaks above us, covered in snow. A little bit rainy this morning though, so not sure when we're gonna get going here. So last night when we got here to the hut in the dark, there was a large Kia right out here on the porch. A Kia is an alpine parrot that is native to New Zealand here. It's actually endangered now. For several hundred years, They were hunting the kias, and they provided a bounty actually. So they estimate around 100,000 or more kias were killed here in New Zealand because they thought the kias were killing the sheep. Sheep farming, a big industry here in New Zealand, and so they put a bounty on the beaks of the kia, and somewhere between 100 and 150,000 kias were killed. Now there's only somewhere in the range of 1,000 left of this rare alpine parrot, and so they're known for being very mischievous in huts and other areas that are frequented by travelers, and so they'll fly off with your hiking boot or your sock or your food. And so there was one hanging around here. There's actually a couple signs up that say watch out for the kias, because they'll steal your hiking boots, they'll grab them and fly away with them. So pretty interesting. We had seen a kia pretty close up on Arthur's Pass. Got some good shots, and he was a pretty mellow guy. He wasn't trying to jack our food or anything like that, but really interesting. The one I saw last night was really fat, so he's been eating pretty well at this hut here. It was cool to explore that cave up near the Luxmore Hut, the Luxmore Cave there. Unfortunate to see that vandalism, but the good thing about the caves here in New Zealand is you don't have to deal with that bat smell, the smell of the bat droppings and stuff like that, because although they do have bats here in New Zealand, the bats in New Zealand don't live in the caves. They actually live in trees. And actually the bats are the only native mammal to New Zealand. Every other mammal that they have here has been introduced and is now an invasive species. Just a little tidbit about the bats. So if you do any cave exploration here in New Zealand, you don't have to deal with that typical heavy bat guano smell that you'll encounter in several other cave scenarios. You feeling rested?
I wouldn't say rested is the term.
What would you say?
I am feeling, I don't know, cold.
Cold?
Looks like it's raining.
Okay. You're feeling ready to hike in the rain, and you're already cold. You want to put your hood on probably, right? Well, so far hiking in the rain, not too bad today, just slight drizzle. Trail's pretty muddy though, in some parts, pretty boggy. But I will say, the one great thing about the Kepler Track, especially this section on the third day, and not a lot of people will mention this, but it's fully furnished, as you can see behind me. Well, 5 hours and 20 minutes, we have made it to the hut. Made it here with some daylight to spare, so they say 6 hours, but we made it in 5 hours and 20 minutes, so not too bad. Even though a little rain, a little muddy on the trail, we did pretty good, if I do say so myself. Are you ready to get dry?
I want to be dry.
Uh-huh. Ready to go get warm?
Look at this beautiful Fiordland.
That's a Fiordland? I think it's a lake. Fiordland National Park. Let's go get dry on that stove. They got the stove going. Fourth and final day of the Kepler Trek here. This is supposed to be one of the easiest days. They say it can take up to 5.5 hours, but I've heard we could also do it in 2.5 or 3. Pretty mellow, pretty flat. And it had rained a little bit this morning, but rain's tapered off, blue sky's coming out, so it's going to be a beautiful dry last day here. interesting thing about this boggy area behind me here is that the moss has died and built up layers of peat, which are approximately 5 meters thick. So below this surface is a 5-meter thick or 15-foot deep layer of peat moss. Very interesting. This whole area is wetlands, this boggy area, and it contributes to maintaining moisture and water in the forest. When it's times of dry periods, the bog will release moisture, and in times of excessive rain, it absorbs that water to save it for when it needs to release it to feed the rest of the ecosystem around it. Epic 4-day here on the Kepler Trek, greeted by this beautiful rainbow behind me. Looking forward to plenty more adventures here in New Zealand. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, buckle up, because we're just getting started here. In the meantime, get out there, find your adventure, and be infamous.
Infamous.